What's up, all my movie-loving maniacs? This your boy Bankful B of the Lassiter Factor, and with Transformers 1 being released in theaters last week, I thought I'd take a moment and rank every single theatrically released Transformers movie from worst to best. So, let's get into it. Coming in last place is Transformers Age of Extinction. This movie is the worst Transformers movie for a number of reasons. It's too long, the plot is nonsensical, the CGI is ass, the performances from the actors are not good. The entire climax of the movie takes place in China for no reason, and it's too long for no reason. And I'll never forgive this movie for actually stopping so that the movie can explain why the boyfriend of Mark Wahlberg's girlfriend can legally bone his underage daughter. Just explaining, talking about it's the Romeo and Juliet rights. Like, bro, who wrote this shit? Granted, maybe this movie can be enjoyed on a turn your brain off type of way, but at the same time, I view this movie and my next two entries after this the same way I view The Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker. The movies that will mildly entertain me while I'm watching, but will ultimately piss me off and annoy me once I stop to think about it for more than 30 seconds. At number 7 is Transformers Revenge of the Fallen. Now, I'll admit, I give this movie somewhat of a pass, mainly because it is a victim of the writer's strike from the mid to late 2000s. This movie had nowhere to go but down. That being said, this movie is still a hot mess, just like Age of Extinction. The plot is a bit nonsensical, the CGI is horrible. Shia LaBeouf is annoying in this one. I love me some Megan Fox, but she is nothing more but eye candy in this movie. And I'll never forgive this movie for giving a Transformers wrecking balls to use as balls. Yo, who wrote this shit? But I'll admit, I'm not as harsh on this movie as I am Age of Extinction, mainly because I was still a teenager when this movie came out. It came out after that successful first movie. The hype was real around it, so therefore I have some nostalgia for the movie. In fact, I remember I saw this movie twice in the theater. The first time, my brother-in-law took me and my sisters to go see it. Then the second time, I took my girlfriend at the time to go see it. And honestly, you can say that about all the Michael Bay directed Transformers movies. The only people that like them are either teenagers or people like me who watch them as teenagers. At number 6 is Transformers The Last Knight. Now, I'll admit, I did kind of like this movie when I first saw it, but over the years, I've kind of grown out of favor for this movie. I think it's mainly because I try to convince myself, it's a better movie than the last two, but still, I just had to be honest with myself, this movie is not good. The plot, like the other two that I just mentioned, is nonsensical, it's all over the place, it's a hot mess, the CGI, slightly better, but still no better. The performances are no better, a waste of a perfectly good Anthony Hopkins, a waste of an end credit scene that will more than likely never be followed up on. I'll give the movie credit for not having an overuse of product placement like Age of Extinction, but I will still not forgive this movie for trying to add historical elements to the movie. Talk about Transformers have been around for a long time and they helped Harriet Tubman free the slaves and help them get under the Underground Railroad, and Bumblebee fought Adolf Hitler, I should say. But seeing how they try to incorporate actual history into this movie, I'm like, once again, who wrote this shit? To me, The Last Knight is probably the best of a bad bunch, but the fact that this movie didn't even make $1 billion like its previous two predecessors just shows that people are falling out of favor for the Michael Bay way of doing Transformers movies. At number 6 is the Transformers animated movie from the 80s, and as someone that is not a child of the 80s, I do not have no nostalgic ties to this movie, so therefore I really just didn't care for this movie. Even when I bought this movie on Blu-ray almost 10 years ago, and it's a cool-looking steelbook, by the way, but I don't know if you can see it, but anyways, even when I've only watched this movie twice, and each time I've watched, I just really wasn't that impressed. Or maybe if I'd seen it when I was much, much younger, maybe I could appreciate it. It's still better than the previous 3 movies that I just mentioned, but it's just one of those Transformers movies that I don't see myself rewatching often. Though the late Leonard Nimoy as Unicron is awesome, though, I will say that. And now we're getting into the Transformers movies that I actually like. Starting at number 5, Transformers Dark of the Moon. I actually really like this movie. I remember seeing it in theaters. I remember it was a fun time at the theater, and it's a hell of a lot better than Revenge of the Fallen. It puts Sam Witwicky, played once again by Shia LaBeouf, in a much more mature place. Megan Fox is gone, and we got Rosie Huntington-Whiteley, who at the time I actually prefer her over Megan Fox, and still do at times. But I just like, well, one, I'm a sucker for British women, but also I just think this is a more well-rounded love interest than Megan Fox's Michaela in the first two movies. But I also like this movie because it puts the Autobots in a particular position where they're looked at as enemies. I think this movie did it better than Age of Extinction. I do like how they try to incorporate the moon landing, and then they got Sentinel Prime in this movie, played by Leonard Nimoy. And the whole climax of the movie that takes place in Chicago is awesome. And also, I also kind of have a soft spot for this movie because basically the first two acts of this movie took place in Washington, D.C., which I am a native of. I remember I was in college in my first year in college. They shot some scenes of this movie during my freshman year in college, and I tried to get on set just so I can see some of the action. And it was a nostalgic memory for me. At number four is Transformers Rise of Beasts, and I'll admit, even after I bought this movie on Blu-ray, I have not gone back to rewatch it. I've only seen this movie once, and that is in the theater. But that being said, from what I do remember about this movie, I really did love this movie. And this is the Transformers movie that I always wanted to see, which is the Beast Wars. That was my introduction into Transformers, was the Beast Wars. So seeing Optimus Primal and the Predacons and the Maximals, it was a kid's dream come true to see that on the big screen. And this movie is directed by Stephen Caple Jr., who made Creed 2, so I'll support anything he makes. It's not perfect, but it is a fun time to watch. And a resurrected Bumblebee coming out to Mama Said Knock You Out by LL Cool J, that is a rock solid needle drop. At number 3 is Michael Bay's original Transformers movie. Again, not perfect, but this movie is still a landmark movie from the 2000s. This is a huge movie back in 2007. I remember when this movie came out, this is something that everybody was looking forward to. And seeing the Transformers in live action form, that was a moment in itself. And plus, this is a Michael Bay Transformers movie where Michael Bay was restrained. And since then, he has just not been restrained. I just wish if Michael Bay comes back to direct Transformers movies, I wish he could just come back to this right here. I will never forget watching the Transformers transform for the first time on the screen, and Hugo Weaving as Megatron. I am Megatron. You failed me yet again, Starscream. Give me the cube, boy! But hearing Peter Cullen's voice as Optimus Prime for the first time in this movie was music to a lot of people's ears. My runner-up is Bumblebee, which is the first good Transformers movie, and it had to be a spinoff. But this movie did the smart thing by putting it in the 80s. They made it basically like the Iron Giant, where it's a kid and her pet robot. Haley Steinfeld is awesome in this movie. This movie was made by Stephen Knight, who is the owner of Laika, who makes all the stop-motion animated movies, and he really showed his directing hand in this movie. I can't believe it took 6 movies for them to finally get it right. And finally, at number 1 is Transformers 1. This is without a doubt the best made Transformers movie. From its animation, its story, it treated the downfall of the friendship between Optimus Prime and Megatron more seriously and with care. Some of the voice actors that played some of these iconic characters did throw me off, but they came into their own. But check out my review of Transformers 1. It's on my TikTok. Check it out. But if this is the start of a new continuity of Transformers movies, I am all here for it, and I can't wait to see what's in store. And that is my ranking of every theatrically released Transformers movie. Here is a quick recap, courtesy of Letterboxd. If you're not following me, follow me on there. It's at Lassiter Factor. And tell me in the comments section, how would you rank every theatrically released Transformers movie? Let me know in the comments section below. This is your boy Bankful B. Stay safe, wash your hands, peace.